It's a new day, and that means new stories from Ocean Story. Let's begin. At 27 years old, I am the result of good financial decisions made a few years ago that allowed me to enjoy my freedom and do what I love. I am passionate about all things electronics and video games, a true geek at heart. I own a small computer store where I not only repair customers' tech, but also sell various computer accessories and small electronics. Living in the same building as my store, I don't spend all my time there. I have 2 employees who work in shifts, and I only step in as needed, filling in for them during vacations or illnesses. My sister Jane, 34, is the mother of 3 children, teenager Mary, schoolgirl Julia, and preschooler Jack. Because of my free time, I am often involved in caring for my younger nephews. Although Mary doesn't require much supervision, she often spends time in my store. I am always available to help my sister when the children are sick or she has a business trip to go on, especially in these times when global issues cause children to be sent home for even the slightest cough or sneeze. At my grandmother's 80th birthday party, relatives gathered, many of whom I didn't remember or had never even met. During the celebration, my sister Jane and I were seated next to each other. Suddenly, an elderly woman, probably a distant relative of our grandmother's, came up to us and started wondering what we were doing. I told her about my small business, to which my sister suddenly interjected, "Yes, his business is mostly a lazy pastime. He often sleeps until noon, spends his days at the store playing video games or watching movies, while some of us worked hard to succeed." Those words, though technically true, hurt me. I felt hurt that she didn't take into account that in order for her to get her education, someone had to take care of the children, and that role was mine. My vocational school education and a few successful business decisions also required effort, although they were different from her path. However, I stayed in the party, trying to ignore this awkward moment. So I responded with irony, "Don't forget that I was also working as a free full-time nanny, but I decided to quit and focus on laziness." Her reaction was predictable. She didn't say anything back and didn't take me seriously. But a week later, I got a call in the morning with a message that little Jack had been throwing up all night and my sister wanted to bring him to me. I reminded her of my resignation due to laziness and ended the conversation by going back to sleep. Later, I woke up to find several messages from my sister calling me a selfish idiot, claiming that I act like I'm the center of the universe. I politely apologized to her for her misunderstanding. Not an hour later, my mom called me, rebuking me for leaving my sister in the lurch. She couldn't take time off from the hospital, and there was no one to watch the kids. Those words hurt me. Yes, I admit my laziness, but I was hurt by the way my sister acted as if caring for her children was someone else's responsibility. The older child's father was unavailable, and the father of the younger 2 worked as a truck driver and was only home on weekends. My sister seemed to have ruined a beautiful situation by not having a valid reason for her displeasure with me. Now my sister has to face the consequences of her actions. At the root of it all is a complete lack of respect. If I back down, she will realize that she can continue to do so with impunity. This will only increase her contempt for me and show that giving in does not lead to more respect. It's a sad reality, but my sister bit the hand that helped her. Now she must suffer the consequences of her words and actions. This is not my problem, because like many other parents, she can hire a babysitter. Unfortunately, her education and labor did not teach her to be grateful for the help she was given. My sister is probably jealous of my situation. Working in a responsible position in a challenging field, she compares her life to mine, where I was able to build a successful business that allowed me to work independently and with flexibility, allowing me to take care of her children at the last minute. My laziness is actually more likely to make her jealous and want to blame me for her problems. Now that I've given up the babysitting role, she's in a lose-lose situation. My position on this issue is significantly different. I believe that your decision, while understandable from an emotional standpoint, is excessive. Cutting ties with your family over a few snarky remarks seems to me a disproportionate response. Now, in light of your decision, the children will face unpleasant consequences. They will be forced to go to school even when they are sick, as parents can't always afford to take a day off due to their children's possible illness. If your sister was resentful of you before this incident, now her frustration will reach a new level. You can certainly act as you see fit, but remember that this approach will not lead to respect from others. Your decision to enjoy your free time and the satisfaction of not being responsible for the children may cause even more discord in the family. Your struggling sister may now rightly reproach you for being selfish and irresponsible. Next story. As the father of 2 teenage sons, I can safely say that we are fortunate to own a basement that has become a true teenage sanctuary. It's not my doing. The previous owner of the house, an avid sports fan, turned it into a true sports paradise. The basement has a small gym with a few machines and free weights, as well as a tiny locker room with 3 lockers and a bench. The locker room leads to a large shower area that resembles a mini version of a real locker room from a sports stadium. The shower is about 5 feet by 7 feet and has become a social and gathering place for the boys and their friends. It's perfectly normal for them to leave the water running so that one by one they can jump in the shower after practice. Sometimes they even run in on each other in a hurry to freshen up after playing sports. This is a typical gym atmosphere where the shower room is equipped with multiple shower heads and is different from a cozy home shower designed for one person. One day my sister found out about a shower setup in my basement where the boys sometimes shower together. Her reaction was full of disbelief and shock. She couldn't believe it was normal. I tried to explain to her that it was no different than when boys shower in the gym or locker rooms at school, where group showers are commonplace for many athletes. But she insisted that it was highly inappropriate. I flared up and called her a crazy idiot for turning a mundane situation into a huge issue. Now she doesn't communicate with me or my wife. I wondered if her attitude had to do with some beliefs she may have that she finds unacceptable. I wondered why she takes it so seriously. Doesn't she see that getting 2 teenagers to take a shower is already a challenge in itself, and I would be happy for them to take it in any format, whether together or separately? Her reaction strikes me as odd. Does she think it's inappropriate behavior in gyms and school locker rooms too? Or how would she react when she learns about showers in the military? She seems to take this situation too seriously and strictly, not realizing that the reality is much simpler. Women's and men's locker rooms are set up differently, and there is a possibility that she is unaware of this difference. When I visited the locker room in high school, the men's section was organized in such a way that the showers were shared and the toilet stalls were devoid of doors. At the same time, the women's locker room provided many separate showers, which may have led to a misunderstanding of how the men's locker rooms were organized. My words reflect a deep concern about how some may misinterpret the situation, leading to unfounded accusations. This causes me deep resentment. My sister and her husband have made the decision to expand their family by adopting a teenager named Jake who, despite his life challenges, is an extremely remarkable young man. Faced with the obstacles of biological motherhood, my sister chose adoption as an opportunity to realize her dream of parenthood. Although I was a little worried about her because of her tendency to be naive, it soon became apparent that she was doing a great job and Jake was also positively accepting of her. To the surprise of everyone, my sister became pregnant and is now 6 months pregnant. This was great news for the whole family, although Jake showed some irritability, which is understandable given his past experiences. I believe his reaction is natural and just reflects his anxiety about the upcoming changes in his life. I realized that my sister was aware of the problems and was trying to resolve them without drawing attention to them. However, last night I saw her in tears after Jake came home agitated and started making comments about her and the baby-to-be. She was upset, not understanding why he was doing this, and admitted that it hurt her deeply. I felt sympathetic to her condition, but I wondered if she had discussed the possible family changes with Jake and reassured him about it. When I gently asked about it, she was silent for a moment, and then admitted that she hadn't really thought about his feelings, calling herself shallow. Her revelation surprised me. She tried to make a joke of it, but it only increased my anxiety. I couldn't help but point out the seriousness of the situation, emphasizing that Jake wasn't just someone to ignore or push away. He was part of the family now, and she had to take responsibility as a parent. My comment may have sounded harsh, but my intention was to show that parenting requires a deliberate approach and understanding. My sister reacted resentfully, reminding me that she was new to parenting, and I realized that mistakes are inevitable along the way. My sister made it clear that she recognized Jake as her child, whose importance in her life was not subject to change. Her words about my remarks, which she perceived as extremely hurtful, made me think. She suggested that I put myself in the shoes of someone facing teen leadership for the first time without any experience, and after that I, realizing my abruptness, stopped the conversation. Maybe I had indeed been too harsh. After all parents make mistakes sometimes, and it is important to be able to forgive. While I feel that my sister could have been more understanding, especially given the circumstances, I also realized that she genuinely loves Jake and feels bad about the situation. I acknowledge that my criticism may have sounded too harsh. Ultimately, this is a lesson for both of us about mistakes, forgiveness, and growth. Jake is experiencing instability that is exacerbated by his past traumas, and certainly his reaction to the news of his family's expansion is driven by fear and uncertainty. However, he knows that my sister will not reject him and that adoption has made him an integral part of her life. This is a reminder of the importance of support and understanding in a family where each member, no matter the circumstances, is valued and loved. My sister probably didn't fully realize how much Jake's anxiety might have affected him because she herself was absolutely certain of his unchanging place in their family. She never doubted her decision to make him a part of her life, and it was this belief that may have prevented her from seeing his inner fears. In this context, a possible misunderstanding is not a critical mistake, but can be overcome through open and honest dialogue that will help Jake understand that he is a valued and loved member of the family. Your pointing out the importance of communication emphasizes that parents should actively include all children in conversations about significant changes in the family. This is especially important for a teen who, like Jake, has had experience living in foster care and may have deep-seated feelings of insecurity. Not discussing anticipated changes in family life beforehand can reinforce these fears. Your expression of surprise that my sister did not have these important conversations with Jake in advance raises the issue of the availability of resources and information for parents about supporting children through periods of great change. In today's world, where there is a plethora of parenting materials available, it seems unusual that more effort was not made to provide support for Jake during this period of transition. However, it is important to recognize the complexity of parenting and that every parent can make mistakes. Perhaps my sister truly loves Jake deeply, but simply did not realize the importance of preparing him in advance for the changes that the arrival of a new family member would bring. This experience can serve as a valuable lesson to the entire family about the need for better understanding and stronger family bonds. Next story. In the shadow of the unfolding events of my childhood, I grew up under a sign of change marred by tragedy and betrayal. My sister, a year younger than me, and I, the product of a love marred by betrayal, began life's journey under what few would call ideal conditions. Our father, who had once sworn eternal devotion to our mother, broke his promise before I was born, drawn by his feelings for another. His new choice, who soon became my sister's mother, proved to be a source of quarrels and discord in our family. My mother, with her indomitable spirit and strength, rejected his betrayal, throwing him out of our lives like trash on the side of the road. My early years were spent in the warmth of my mother's attention, despite occasional visits to my father, who I thought looked past his responsibilities. That all changed when bereavement came upon me. My mother, our eternal pharos in the sea of life, passed away, leaving me to fend for myself. Her battle with asthma seemed to have ended peacefully, but fate had it differently, and I found myself in the home of my father, a man I could not call father, not only in words but also in my heart. Living under the same roof did not bring us closer together. He remained a stranger, preoccupied with his own life and neglectful of our needs. His new wife, who sought to replace our mother, made me hate and resent her. Her attempts to squeeze herself into the role of mother, especially in the moments when I was saying goodbye to our real mother, were seen by me as sacrilege. She tried to assert her presence in our lives, only to be resisted by the family and ultimately rejected. After days of pain and emptiness at my grandparents' retreat, I returned home to face a new challenge, her assertion that she was now my mother. Those words, thrown into my soul, did not resonate there. Respect and love cannot be imposed or demanded by force. They are born from the depths of mutual feelings and actions filled with care and understanding. Difficult family relationships marred by misunderstandings and conflicts have only deepened the wounds left by the loss. I recognize that my actions and words toward the woman who tried to take my mother's place were not always fair or respectful. Years filled with contempt and rejection brought me no comfort, but only reinforced the rift between me and the world she was trying to build. Finding no support in my father, who seemed to have abandoned his role as guardian and protector, I became increasingly withdrawn and unapproachable. My sister, who had no memory of my birth mother, saw her mom as the only example of motherhood. She accused me of injustice, not understanding the depth of my grief and longing for what I had lost. She claimed that her mother was my mother in every meaningful aspect of my life. Unable to understand why I could not accept her in the same way I accepted the memories of my birth mother. Her words, filled with reproach and bewilderment, only added to the guilt and separation between us. The difficulties my sister's mother faced added gravity to the already precarious balance of our family relationship. Her diagnosis of a neurological disease brought new challenges that she faced with dignity despite the odds. Her struggles and regular visits to the doctor reminded me of the fragility of human life and that it may be time to look for ways to reconcile and understand. My father's absence, his unwillingness or inability to participate in our lives, only emphasized the depth of the gap between past and present, between what was and what could have been. In this melting pot of feelings and circumstances, I began to realize that despite all the hurts and disappointments, family is not only a bond of blood, but an opportunity for growth, acceptance, and forgiveness, even when the path to them seems impossible. At the heart of this storm of emotion and conflict lies a deep misunderstanding and pain separating two souls bound by blood but separated by circumstance. Words thrown in a moment of anger and frustration have left scars, deeply scarring my heart and soul. The claims and accusations my sister made about our departed mother reflected not so much her true feelings as her desperation and attempt to find a foothold in the chaos that engulfed our family. Refusing to help my father's wife when he himself was absent and unable to provide for us as before was yet another cause for strife. My reaction, expressed in words of rejection and rejection, only exacerbated the situation, causing my sister to leave, devastated and resentful. Her words, accusing me of indifference and unwillingness to support her, were a cry for help, a tacit admission that, despite everything, she still looked to me for a brother capable of empathy and support. My words about a future where she might find herself in a similar situation were not just an expression of anger, but an attempt to protect myself from the pain I felt in rejecting the woman standing between me and my memories of my mother. However, instead of being a defense, they only deepened the chasm between us, leaving my sister isolated and suffering. I imagine she will likely have a new family, perhaps even new siblings ahead of her. There may be someone new in your life too, which could be confusing. I would strongly suggest reaching out to your grandparents for support, asking for their help with custody, or just walking away. Your half-sister and her mother are trying to manipulate you, and you realized this a long time ago. She told you that her mother is sick. Let her feel what you experienced when your own mother left. It's important to me that these words are not forgotten because they are a reminder that the teenager shared the story of her ordeal with her younger sister. I think you're focusing on the wrong thing. Your stepmom's health is undermining the foundation of your family. Your sister and stepmom need help. This is your father's responsibility, who unfortunately has become even more aloof. Seek help from a teacher or school counselor. Be sure to tell them that your father has left you in distress. If you are in the U.S., remember that they are legally obligated to report your situation to the proper authorities. You may be able to move in with your grandparents, but it's important to remember that you may feel guilty about the situation, which will eventually force your sister to seek adult help. This is the only way out, so please do it and get on with your life, striving for the best, knowing that you did the best you could. You're not an idiot, and it's not your sister's fault either. After all, she's just a kid too. But how could my father do this to these women? He really did something stupid. Next story. When I bring pizza to my sister's house, my niece invariably speaks up critically, saying things like, "I don't eat that processed stuff." My sister, to my surprise, never tries to correct her behavior. In recent months, while attending family gatherings at her home, I have repeatedly asked my sister if she is doing okay, to which she has always responded in the affirmative. My son, noticing these comments, asked me why she was saying that. I tried to explain to him that she was probably trying to eat healthy, trying not to aggravate the situation. However, a few days ago, when I brought out the pizza again, my niece repeated her comment, to which my son, unable to stand it, responded, "If you don't want it, don't eat it, and it's not for you at all." After all, you can go outside and eat leaves if you care so much about being healthy." His words caused laughter among the other children, including his cousin, and my niece ended up bursting into tears. My sister, noticing what had happened, took her aside after the event was over. My sister contacted me demanding that my son apologize to her daughter. I responded that an apology was not required on his part, given that her daughter had repeatedly made inappropriate comments to which my sister did not respond. My sister argued that her daughter was merely expressing her opinion, as is customary as a child. I pointed out that my son had done the same thing in expressing his opinion, and that if her daughter was not prepared to face criticism in return, she should not make such statements. This incident was discussed with my parents, who also witnessed the incident. They supported me, saying that my sister should take care of her daughter's upbringing. Interestingly, the reactions to my son's words varied. Some relatives and guests praised him for his bravery, while others joked, calling him a little CEO and a hero, while there were those who criticized his statements. I believe that my son should not apologize until my niece admits her guilt. However, it is important to discuss with my son that while his reaction was understandable, there may have been more sensitive ways to handle the conflict. It is also worth being cautious and considerate of those who call his actions heroic, as such praise may carry hidden risks to his perceptions and behavior in the future. Children are known to flourish under the rays of positive attention, while the language of censure is left out, especially when it comes to your son. In this case, he may be caught up in the attraction of such compliments, at the risk of repeating such behavior at an inopportune moment. My biggest concern is the question of the origin of such beliefs in your niece. My child is almost 7 years old and his diet includes pasta, tacos, cheese, yogurt, and sometimes chicken nuggets. He has some idea of healthy eating and foods bypassing the path of intense processing. However, judging the food choices of others may indicate incipient eating problems and a possible future eating disorder. The roots of this behavior certainly traced back to my sister, which is where her deep distress and lack of attempts to correct her behavior originated. I am increasingly convinced that my niece's mother is contributing to her daughter's unhealthy relationship with food, which is a very negative thing. My sister probably wishes that healthier foods were offered for dinner, but instead of open dialogue, she uses her child as a tool to achieve her goals by teaching her bullying techniques, which subsequently leads to bullying. Thus, we see a picture where children's beliefs about nutrition are shaped by adult influence, and healthy discussions and nutrition education take a back seat to methods of pressure and criticism. This is a reminder of the need for a careful approach to nurturing children's food preferences, where support and understanding should be the foundation for a healthy future.